Okay, so we are going to be drawing Henry, our hippo that we pass around. This is why he's our mascot, because he's going to teach us how to draw today. Okay? And when we are starting our drawings, we want to look for basic shapes. So if I'm looking at Henry here, I'm going to start with the largest shape. What would be the largest part of Henry to start with? An oval, maybe a circle, but I do feel like it's not so much a circle. It is more of a long oval, right? So that's what I'm going to start with as my basic shape for his body, making sure that I don't make it so big that I don't have room for other parts that I'm going to add on. So on your paper, I want you to kind of divide your paper in half. We're going to do one drawing at the top, and we'll do another drawing at the bottom later. And I'm going to start with an oval. I'm going to turn out the lights. I think you guys said you could see better that way. Tricky to see pencil. So we're going to start with an oval, but just watch first. I'm going to be combining my sketchy line. I don't know why it's making noises. And notice how my hand is nice and rested. What happens when I try to make the other side of this? Flip it. Very good. I want to turn my paper to keep my hand still feeling comfortable. You guys are just watching first, and then when I finish, you'll start. Okay? So again, it's almost a circle, but a little bit more of that oval shape, and we want it longer, not tall. So go ahead, draw your oval right towards the middle of that section you're working with. Zoe and Arabella, can you guys see okay? You can jump. Table 1 has open seats if you want to jump up there and be a little closer. Okay, my next shape is going to be for my nose. And I notice he doesn't really have a shape for his head. His head is kind of part of his body. It's really his nose that is sticking out. What shape might we draw for the nose, Dan? Probably like part of a circle though, not the whole thing, because it's going to run into the head that we drew. So I'm going to make it almost like a half a circle, but a little more than that, almost like a half an oval. I also need to notice where to draw things. So I notice that the nose is not up at the top of my oval or the bottom of my oval. It's really like right in the middle of that first oval that I drew. So I'm going to start above that and go a little below that halfway point. And I want to think about my size relationships. How big should the nose be compared to the rest of the body? Okay? That's called our proportions, the size relationships of things. And that is one of the big reasons why we work with basic shapes first and don't just try to draw the outlining and details of everything first. Okay, go ahead, draw your nose on there. Remember, keep that sketchy line. And then look back. Your nose should definitely be smaller than your body. But think about, does that make sense to what I have in Henry? Okay? Now, my next part I'm going to draw are going to be his legs. What basic shape do you think we could do for his legs? Probably rectangles, maybe almost squares, but it does come up and touch that oval. Again, I'm also noticing where do these go. So don't start drawing it. I noticed that for his back leg, the line for the back of the leg lines up with the back of my oval that I drew. Okay? So I can start this right from the end of my oval, comes in just a little tiny bit, and then I'm going to do my straight line down. He does not have a lot of stomach showing, so his legs are pretty wide. So I'm going to make this kind of come most of the way in towards the center and then do my next line down. I think that's a little long in proportion to what Henry is, so I'm going to shorten this leg a little bit and just draw my line across, making kind of a square or rectangle for his back leg. Go ahead and draw his back leg. Same idea for the front leg. The front of the front leg comes around where the front of the oval is, right where we drew the nose kind of coming in. And then again, it's going to be pretty wide because there's not a lot of stomach showing. So just underneath where I did the nose, I'm going to do a straight line for that leg. And I want the legs to be the same length. So I'm going to notice how far down I did this one and just bring that line kind of across. And then make my back part of that front leg. He's kind of looking a little turtle-ish right now. Sort of looks like a shell with some stumpy legs and a nose sticking out. Okay? It doesn't really look like Henry, does it? It looks more like a turtle. Because we're only doing the basic shapes right now. We haven't actually made Henry yet. The reason we do this is when we get to more complicated objects, we want to make sure we have enough space and that we have the right size relationships before we move into details. So Henry isn't super complicated, but if you were drawing something more complicated, like let's say an airplane, and you started with the wing of the airplane and you put every single bit of detail into that wing, let's say you drew for 25 minutes. And the wing looks amazing. It's the best drawing you've ever done. And then you go to add the body of the plane and you realize you don't have enough room on the paper for how big you made your wing to fit the size that you need for the body. And now you have to start over. That's why we use basic shapes. We plan out where things are going to go and make sure we have the right size relationships before we move into realism and details. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to do is compare what I drew to what Henry actually looks like. And I notice right away that his head does not kind of swoop down like that where it connects. His head kind of goes and gradually goes up and has a nice smooth curve there. So that's the first thing I'm going to add. I'm going to bring from his nose, I'm going to do a smooth curve up till I get to where the back is. Add that little piece. I noticed the same idea for his feet. So I noticed that his feet curve on both edges, but it also looks like it kind of comes out like a little bit of a foot. It's not straight down like what I drew. So I'm going to come from this front line and give this a little bit of a foot here and curve around my corners. I want this to be curvy, not straight. I'll do the same thing for my back foot too. Curve that toe out just a little bit. Curve it at the back. So now I've got some extra lines. Anywhere that I did not use my basic shape, I can go back and erase that. So just that final outline is showing. I also noticed that where the head and the body connect does not have a line in between them. It's all one shape. Same thing between my legs and my body. That's all one shape. So I'm going to erase that as well. And now we went from that turtle-looking body to this actually is starting to resemble Henry. Except Henry is still missing some details. So now we got to really pay attention to our details and get those added on. First thing I notice is his tail. His tail is almost like a triangle, but no point to that triangle. So I'm going to draw out the basic shape of the triangle, and then I'll get rid of the point later. I also want to notice where it's coming into the body. It's not down low at the bottom of my oval. It's right sort of towards the middle of that oval, right? So I'm going to do that triangle from right near the middle point of that oval. Just a little triangle. And then again, doesn't have a point, so I'm going to curve it at the point there, get rid of that pointed part. Next one is going to be the ear. And the ear is probably the most complicated part of Henry because it's going to actually be two shapes. It has an inside area where I kind of see that pink showing. And then it also has the outside area to show that it is something that's three-dimensional. So I'm going to start with this inside shape, kind of like an upside down U. And I want to notice again where it's falling. It is not at the very top edge, but it does overlap that top edge. So I'm going to come right about here and do my upside down letter U. Just a little curve. It's going to overlap that edge for his head that we did. So it's going over top and breaking that space. Okay? Upside down U. And from the very top of that upside down U, I'm going to bring that kind of over and down to show the other side of the ear to make it 3D. And this ear is in front of the body. So I am going to go back and erase that little line that I overlapped to show that the ear is in front. And you can see why it's important to really draw lightly. I have to draw dark because of the projector, and you can see where I went back and erased still. So that's why it's really important to start your drawings nice and light, so we can make changes. We're almost there, guys. All we're missing is our eyes and our nose. So when I look at Henry, I notice that I don't actually see both eyes from my point of view. I really only see his one eye. So I'm just going to do that one oval shape, and then I'll put the little black dot for the pupil of his eye. And again, I'm noticing where that falls, which is just about where that nose and the head kind of came together, is where I'm going to do that oval shape. And I'm going to put that little black pupil right towards the middle. And then my final touch is, it's hard to see because it's black on the dark green, but there is one little nostril that I'm going to see there. And his nostril is just a square shape, a teeny tiny one. I'm going to do that kind of close to the edge and just put my little square there for his nose, little nostril. And now when we look at it, we should recognize our wonderful Henry the Hippo. Hopefully your drawing looks a little Henry-ish.